Good afternoon. Welcome to PCE. It's around about 10 to 2, so we should start here. I just passed around the 2 blue sheets as they're coming around the room. Please could you make sure you put your name on there so that we have a record of who attended the meeting. We'll start with the IETF note well. This is something that most people will have seen before. It's really just a reminder of the IETF policies which govern things like intellectual property rights. Please be aware any contribution you make in this meeting is regarded as an IETF contribution. And if you want more information, then you can see the references here on the note well. Okay, so we'll go through the usual administrivia first. Please sign the blue sheets, as I said. We have our usual way of taking notes is to use the Etherpad on, you find the link to the Etherpad from the IETF meeting agenda site. Who would like to help me with the notes today? Drew is there. Anyone else? Dan? Yeah, Harman. Thank you. Okay, that's fine. I think that should be enough of this. Anyone else who, particularly if you come to the mic and you make a comment, you might want to go check the notes, make sure we recorded your comment correctly and your name correctly. That would be helpful. Thank you. And the Jabber scribe. I don't know if we have anyone in the Jabber room, but it would be helpful if someone is in there. Dan is in there. Thanks very much, Dan, if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye on the Jabber room. Okay, we are streaming the audio and video of this meeting onto Meet Echo. I see we do have some participants on Meet Echo, including some people who are not in this room. So please, when you go to the mic, please only speak in the meeting at the mic. Please state your name while you're at the mic. And there's actually not a pink box this time. We have a little pink X on the floor, but if you're presenting, please could you stand in the vicinity of the pink X, and then your image will be captured by the cameras for the people watching remotely. I should have said, I'm John Hardwick, for those who don't know me. My co-chair, Julien, couldn't travel to Bangkok this time, so sorry about that. It would be a good idea. Maybe he will be joining us. I think it's still fairly early on in the day in France, but maybe he'll be joining us later on Meet Echo. Okay, so a little announcement about working group personnel. This will be my last meeting as PCE chair. I'm stepping down. Basically, the reasons for that are because I need to free up more cycles in my time to do other things, but I very much appreciate the time I've been able to spend as chair of a working group. It's been really enjoyable working with you guys, and I think we've done some good things in PCE, and I'm sure the working group will continue to do great things, and I will continue to be involved. Just because I'm standing down as chair, I'm not going away. You may see me a little less, but I'll still be involved. I'll still be shepherding, and I'll still be on the mailing list. So you're not getting rid of me, but that's the change. Deborah at the mic.
Deborah, speaking as your AD, let's give a clap, for John. He did a lot of work on this. Yes, thank you so much for all you did.
Thanks, everyone. Now on to the traditional admonishment to use the mailing list, please. Actually, Lou Berger did a really good job of this in Tees. I'll see if I can do remotely the same job here. Particularly where we have a working group draft. The draft is owned by the working group, not by the individual authors. So it's really helpful when making changes to your documents, particularly when they're a working group draft, if the changes are advertised on the list before they're made so that people get a chance to see them and object rather than just pasted into the document and then uploaded and then it's kind of a fait accompli. So if you could please use the mailing list both to discuss changes you're making and also to raise comments. It's really unhelpful when things happen off the list because then we as chairs don't get to see what's going on, the other participants don't get to see what's going on, and it kind of reduces the amount of collaboration that we can do. So please do the work on the list. That is not aimed at any one particular thing or anything, but it's just a general trend, and I have to keep reminding people. Okay, this is our agenda. Today, you will listen to me, hopefully for less than 20 minutes, and then we will speak of several topics. The first one, segment routing. There's a lot of work in the pipeline. We're only just beginning, it seems, with segment routing, so we have quite a few drafts to be discussed today. Cheng Li, Dhruv, Jeff will be discussing those. Next, there will be new optical work. Young is going to discuss PSEP for FlexGrid. Then we go back to Dhruv, who's going to talk to us about PCE as a central controller. Now we have just recently adopted the base protocol extensions draft for that. We'll be talking about further extensions for P2MP and using SRv6. And then finally, Quan Zhong will talk to us about the multi-layer association draft. Would anyone like to bash the agenda, suggest any changes or make any objections? Going, gone. Okay, thank you very much. So that's what we will go with. And so, working group status. So we'll start with things which are not working group drafts anymore. So one new RFC since Montreal, that's RFC 8408. This is the path setup type RFC. It's really good to get that published. That generalizes PCE so that you can, rather than specializing to RSVP setup types, now we have a general mechanism for saying what kind of path setup type. And this was really needed in order to do all the segment routing work, which is now following on. So it was really kind of foundational work. So it was great to get that out of the way and published. We have 3 drafts right now with the IESG, 2 of which, the GMPLS extensions and the segment routing base draft, have both been through IETF last call. I think that we have directorate reviews of those as well, Deborah, or I think we're not waiting for anything, so maybe they're ready for the next step. I think then we also have the WSON draft, which kind of follows on from the GMPLS draft, where we haven't done an IETF last call about yet. We did a directorate review. I think in the last few days, Young, you've updated the draft. Yeah, so that's addressed the directorate comments. So I think now the IETF last call is probably ready to go. Okay. So those are moving forward, which is good. We have early code point allocations. I'm just using this moment to remind people that we have allocated early code points for their drafts and that those early code points don't last forever. So the PCE segment routing draft, those code points expire in August. Hopefully it gets published before then because, you know, we're nearly there. But then the other 2, the stateful PCE P2MP and the association group drafts, I know they're kind of, well, we'll come to them in a moment, but we have code points for those. We'd lose them in October. We can renew, but it would be good not to have to. So let's try and keep the momentum going for those. We had 1 errata raised on the list against RFC 8231, where I think my summary of that was, we have some ABNF, which is a little bit confusing, and it confused me when I reviewed it, but I was persuaded that it was okay, and now it seems it's confused someone else as well. So I don't think we actually need to change the RFC, but I don't think we've closed the errata yet. And I'm not sure whether what we should do is just leave the documentation on the mailing list as to like what the clarification is, or if there's some other step we need to take, maybe by closing the errata with a comment to clarify. But as far as I know, that errata is still open. Does anyone have anything to say about that, or shall I just take it back to the list? Drew, you're looking puzzled. No. No, okay. All right, so I'll try and get that closed offline, but I think that's something we have outstanding. All right, so we have some working group documents which are either at the last call stage or near the last call stage. 4 of them currently waiting to be shepherded to the IESG, so they're through last call, and we have live revisions of all of them. I think, first of all, inter-IS applicability. Dan, you mentioned that you were going to have an update to that.
Hi, Daniel King. Yes, indeed. So I've got a new version, which I'll submit. Considering it's been 18 months, I figured a couple of hours, wouldn't make any difference at this point.
No.
I'm smiling, but I'm really crying on the inside. The other document I did post this morning was the stateless hierarchical PC extensions document. So that has been posted. I've sent an update to the list, just summarizing what the changes are. And if Adrian Farrell's in the room, I'll let him know that I will email him on the list and respond to each of his comments that he made when he did his review.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so I should remind everyone the inter-IS update Dan's referring to, that's in response to my Shepherd comments from a while ago, and I think when it gets published, then I probably need to take another scan of that, and hopefully we move it forward. Hierarchy extensions, the updates were from Adrian's comments at last call. I think the next step for that is that the document Shepherd needs to get hold of it and do the write-up. Stateful PCE point to multi-point. That's sitting basically with me, waiting for me to do the shepherding. I have to review that one last time, and then we can push it forward. Apologies for not getting to that until now, but I'm still intending to do it. Maybe I'll do it later this week. And then lastly, the association group draft, that's been through working group last call. There were some comments. Drew, you've updated the draft, and it's basically now waiting to be shepherded. So the shepherd needs to get hold of and push it forward. We have 4 drafts waiting to be last called. We know they're ready. We've basically they've been in a queue behind the others, but it will happen now very soon. Stateful PCE auto bandwidth, number 1. ACTN applicability, number 2. PSEP stateful extensions for GMPLS, number 3. And PSEP stateful extensions for hierarchy, where I'd really kind of like to get the base hierarchy extensions out of the working group and with the ISG before we do the working group last call on that, but I feel like we're pretty close to that now, so I think that's good to go soon. Other working group documents, a newly adopted working group item, PCE extensions for PCCC. That was adopted in the last few days. Well done to those authors. And then a whole list of things which are making their way through the working group. Some are closer than others to being last called. Do any of the draft authors who may be in this room want to stand up and give a status on any of their drafts? I'm not going to force people, but it would be good to hear from you.
Adrian Farrell, just to talk about the flow spec document, we think that we've pretty much got everything we need to have in there. It needs a bit of a bash on the language, and I really want anybody who's implementing or looking at implementing to say something soon, because otherwise it's going to move forward relatively soon. I expect the chairs to get a poke from us probably after the next revision saying we think we're done.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Haobian from Huawei. This is to update the draft on the enhanced era, and we have updated this draft mainly to align with the other protocol extension. And the more important thing is we also propose some future requirement for error handling sections for the future PC extension. So we assume this work is now ready and we can move forward. And you are all invited to review it to make sure that it's done.
Thanks. That's a really important point, actually. If this draft is proposing putting requirements on future drafts for error handling sections, then that's probably in everyone's interest to take a look at and review quite closely, because it's going to come back to bite you when you come to write your next draft.
Hi, it's pending on me as well. I'm supposed to review. Oh, by the way, this is Dhruv from Huawei. Apart from that, let me talk about association diversity and policy. We have not made an update. I think the document is stable. We are just waiting for the association group to move, and then we can move these as well. There are no pending open issues there. With Yang, we did make an update. We sent for the early doctor review. I had a chat with Mahesh, who's in midst of preparing his answer, but I got the gist of what he's thinking.
Okay.
And I'll continue to chat with him. And then Tom also gave some comments on the list. So once I have the Yang doctor review, we'll do a reprint. And then what do we have? LSP scheduling, no update done, but more reviews would be kind of useful, especially for that document.
Yeah, indeed.
For LSP control request, no update. Documents is pretty straightforward, very simple extension. And I think it's in my mind, it's kind of ready for last call as well, because it's a very simple extension. Protection, I think we did make an update, but that was just because of the Hari's affiliation change. It's also basically waiting for association group to move. And I think I'm done.
Thanks, Dhruv. Okay, I thought I'd share with you this slide, which is the current queue of drafts sitting in the adoption polling queue. We got a little bit behind on adopting drafts, and/or there was so many drafts coming forward to be adopted that it's generated a bit of a backlog. So we've been working on clearing that. We adopted a few over the last period. At the moment, we have these 4 still sitting in the queue, and I think the queue is in this order. This is basically the order that they requested. There was the PC residual bandwidth draft, which I assume is, I haven't heard about from the authors on that for a while, but I assume it's still alive and wanting to be adopted. Apologies for the delay, authors. We will get to you very, very soon. Draft shell for the PCCC SR extensions, I think logically comes after. Now that we've decided to adopt the base draft, we can pull from that, no problem. Young and Druve, there was a PCVN association draft where I think there was some controversy generated at the last IETF, and I don't recall what that was. But did you have that discussion with Igor offline? Did you finish?
Yes, actually, Igor's comment was VN association can be also applied for tunnel set binding. Or I forgot the words. So we're going to add text that VN association, each VN member corresponds to tunnel. And then when you bind associate with VN, that in effect satisfies Eagle's desire to have tunnel set bundling. Yeah,
That's great. Okay, so please could I ask you add the text and then poke me or poke whoever's going to be sitting in the chair seat by then, so that we can start the adoption. It would be good that if Igor has text to read as we do the adoption, so he can comment one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. And then the final one on the list, actually, we did the poll already, and I was a bit surprised by the answer. So I just wanted to ask the question. Draftyang PC resource sharing. I remember a couple of IETFs ago, this was presented. I said, hands up if you like it, and I think about 12 people put their hands up. And then I did a poll on the mailing list, and I think 3 people answered. So that was a strange disconnect. I don't know if that's because people weren't looking at the mailing list, or if actually there's just been a genuine reversal on that draft. But it didn't seem that there was enough momentum behind it at that point to say yes. So I was just thinking, is what happened?
Speaking as one of the authors for this draft, I think now it is slightly different with the very beginning. So we are switching from defining new objects to using the association object specified in other documents. So this is a part of the association work, but only the name is slightly. Anyway, it's still we would like to still invite people to review and provide your opinion on this.
Okay, well, I think probably the action is to the updates that you do when you do them, send a mail to the list, invite some feedback.
Sure, I think
maybe come here next time and do an update for the audience, and then we can perhaps do the poll again.
I will do some homework, and also I think the main problem would be this draft lasts really for too long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think we need to renew it and then redo.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Thanks. That's it. Okay. So first up. Hang on. Yeah, let me just figure this out. Oh yeah, it works like a charm. Oh well, okay, so use this to sort of forward through the slides.
Okay. Hello everyone, can you hear me? I'm Chong Li from Huawei. Today I'm going to introduce SR pass segment and bidirectional pass in PCEP. So the motivation of why we are doing this is like in some use cases like end-to-end pass protection and bidirectional pass correlation or performance measurement, and they require the ability to implement pass segment pass identification in SR networks. So we proposed two drafts. The first one is the draft Churn Spring and Pairs pass segment to define a new pass segment, called the pass segment to identify an SR pass in SR and Pairs network. Similarly, we proposed a new draft called draft Spring SRv6 pass segment to identify an SRv6 pass in SRv6 network. So for configuring or like allocating pass segments in SR network, we need the extension in PCEP. So we proposed the draft of how to allocate a pass segment. And as well, we also proposed a draft of how to allocate how to combine two SR pass into a bidirectional pass in SR network. This draft will have been posted in IETF 102, and today I will introduce the updated of this draft. First of all, we update the draft LEPC as a pass segment, and right now it has been the version 03, and for the draft LEPC as a bidirectional pass, it has been the version 2. So just for recalling, you can see the slides. Like we define a pass segment TLV in RSP object to carry a pass ID or pass segment, a pass segment in RSP object, and we also create a P flag in RSP object to indicate whether the pass segment should be allocated. So in draft LEPC SR bidirectional pass, we define a new association group object called double-sided bidirectional SR pass association group. So let's talk about the PCE extension. It's PCP extension for pass segment, so for pass identification in SR. Okay, so the major updates are we update the pass ID to pass segment in SRv6 because we just update the solution in SRv6 to identify an SRv6. We use the pass segment instead of pass ID TLV in the SRH. And also we deleted the ingress allocation mechanisms and two label solutions because when we are deploying or we are implementing the pass segment, the customers and vendors, we have make a decision to choose the egress allocation as the only way to allocate the pass segment. And you can see this update in Churn Spring and Pairs pass segment draft. Also, as well, we delete the two labels, the solution. New things, we add new orders and contributors from CMCC, China Mobile, Cheng Wei Qiang, and Rakesh Dafa from Cisco. Also, we add the part of IANA consideration and data plan consideration and error handling. So for implementation, Huawei is implementing this solution in PC and PCC products. I suppose that some vendors are doing the same thing as well. So let's go to the second part, the PCP extension for SR bidirectional associated passes. So the major updates are we also update the POS ID to POS segment for SRv6, and we delete the stateless PC part. And new things are new orders and contributors from China Mobile and Cisco, and IANA considerations, security considerations, and error handling are added. So for implementation, we are also implementing this solution in our products. So since the draft, the contents of the draft are stable, and the commercial implementation is going on, and this solution and mechanism are supported by several vendors and operators. So we decided to post a working group adoption request for this draft. In order to we can request for early IANA allocation. So we post a working group adoption request for drafts Li PCSR POS segment and PCSR bidirectional POS. And your comments and contribution are very welcome. Thank you. Any comments? Question?
All right, so thanks for this.
Thank you.
I think that, I mean, this looks interesting to me. I can see the several use cases that would benefit from this. I mean, it's quite important that things like bidirectional OSPs and OAM work with segment routing. I think there's a process here. There's a base draft in spring, isn't there, which discusses the path segment. So, and that's on the agenda in the spring working group for this meeting later on this week, I think. So I think the process I propose we follow here is that I don't think we can really move in PCE until we see the spring working group has adopted the path segment draft. I think that we need the spring working group to say, yes, path segments are a thing, and that's how we're going to solve these requirements. Once we get to that point, then yes, we discuss doing an adoption poll for this work.
Yes.
Because I don't see any other impediment. As far as the early IANA allocation request, yes, I hear you. I know you have an implementation. I think it's going to be easier to do that with an adopted draft. It's easier to tick the boxes to say that, you know, that's it's going to be a kind of a more lasting, less ephemeral thing. So I think the process is, let's sort out Spring's adoption of path segments generally.
Yes,
then we
of
talk
course,
about these, and then we talk about IANA allocation after that.
Yep. So we could like to post a working group adoption request in spring as well for
Yes, of course.
for the China Spring and Paris per segment. Thank you.
Okay. In the meantime, please review this work. I know it's not adopted yet, but that doesn't mean we have to wait. Please look at what's being proposed, because I think it is useful and important stuff. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, our next speaker is Drew. Bear with me just one second.
It is a PDF.
Yeah, I'm looking for present button. No, I'm not seeing it.
I think it should be okay. Should I try?
Let's just do what we did last time.
It works.
It works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi everyone. So I'll be talking about SRE6. The first draft that's being presented for the second time. We had the early discussion of this couple of IETFs ago, and then we have the Yang extension for SRv6 as well, which is a 00 document. So let's start with just a quick introduction where we are coming from. You guys have seen the SR in PCEP is already gone to the ISG. So we had the discussion that can we use PCEP also to compute SRv6 path. It kind of made sense that yes, we could use the same protocol to do both. There's nothing that stops us at the end. We have a good PST as well, path setup type. Using that, we can do both SR-MPLS and SRv6 path computation. And we kind of thought that whether PCEP is the right way to do it, and if we do it, what are the extension would look like. So basically, what is happening in IPv6 case? You have the path segment, which is an IPv6 address. So we need to have a good way to store the list of IPv6 address, which our SR-ERO can do. And once you have that path, the ingress has to convert that into SRH, which is the IPv6 extension header for segment routing. So some conversion of SID list into the SRH is something that is needed. So from the protocol point of view, it kind of fits quite well. You have an SR-ERO, we need to extend it so that we can do SRv6 information there. Same holds good for SR-RRO. We need a good capability mechanism because this is something new. So how can we advertise that we support SRv6 in PCEP and the new path setup type for SRv6. So that's basically the gist of what this document has. Just a recap, I think everybody kind of knows this. You have an SRH header included in this, which is each SID list is made up of this 128 bits IPv6 address with location and function, and you have a list of segment lists that we need to put in the SRH. So basically, in PCEP protocol, we need to have a way to carry the SID list, and that SID list needs to be converted into SRH at the ingress. So from the update points of view, not big update, what we did was there were some changes in the PCE segment routing base draft. So we need to basically align this work to that. So we have done that. We have SR PCE capability. So here we have an SRv6 PCE capability to carry SRv6 specific information, especially what is the maximum segment length you can carry and whether you support conversion, etc. And then we have a new PST, a new path setup type for SRv6. And what you see in the bottom is an extension of SR-ERO subobject that's defined in the segment routing draft. Now, if you remember there, we had something called as SID and NAI. So we kind of did an extension that since SID list for us is just 32-bit, our SRv6 thing will not fit into it. So we had to put this in something like what you see below, which is a SRv6 identifier. So in case of SRv6, we will not be using NAI. We will be using something called as an SRv6 identifier, the something that you see at the bottom. And all the information related to SRv6 is kind of put there. And we don't use the SID 32 bits that was there in the existing SR-ERO subobject. Good thing is that that subobject was anyway allowing that SID is optional in some cases. So it kind of fits in. You just don't have to encode the SID, just include the SRv6 identifier and put all the information right there. And the rest of the bits that you have, you can simply reuse. And if you read the document, you will see that it kind of fits the extension of PC segment routing. We don't have to make too many changes. And we could reuse a lot of things which were already there. One question that came up, I think I have that in the next slide. I'll discuss it at the end then. So this is basically what we updated in the our basic SRv6 document for stateful PC. A simple extension for supporting Yang. We definitely don't want to add this in our PC Yang document. We want to move that. So we have done a small augmentation and making sure that capability is handled, max SL is handled, SL limit is handled at the various places. And in case we are maintaining a list of information, the segment list that we use from the SRv6 SID, this is from the SRv6 Yang module, which has been done in the Spring Working Group. And that's something, it's a simple extension for SRv6 Yang, and we have written a 00 document. So please review. So what's the question and next step for the working group? Last time when we discussed, there was support for this, that yes, we could do SRv6 and PSAP, it fits in within our scope. Then the question came in, the extension that we have, that is extension of an SR ERO, is that the right approach? Should we come up with a new sub-object? Do we need to just extend it is a better idea or something else? So that's something that I really want to get feedback from the group and especially implementers, that do they like extending MPLS SR with a little bit changes, or would they prefer a different approach there? And basically we feel that this could be ready for adoption as well, so that the working group can look at it and work on it, keeping the SR part this. I think I had one question, but I might fall. I will discuss this I have one more SRv6, that's why I got confused, which is about PCCC for SRv6, so where I have an open question with respect to the last point. That is, in SRv6, they have the node, the locator included, the SRv6 SID is made up of the node and the function. So sometimes this node information is a part of SID. So should I continue to use the NAI functionality, where I used to encode that who's the owner of this SRv6 set? Since that information is already there in the SRv6 identifier, what's the right approach? I'm still looking for a good answer. So if you have any feedback with respect to that, please send it on the list or find me, and I would like to discuss this some more. And I'm done.
Any comments for Dhruv? Okay, thanks for Dhruv. Was the Jessica?
Jeff has a question.
Jeff, you go first.
Short comment on terminology. So you're using max.cell as define another document, but it's not really left. It's how many you can impose. So maybe you better align it with the PSAP SR draft rather than the service.
I'm aligning with the ISIS SRv6 document, and since this is a separate capability, we are not using the MPLS SR TLV here. This is a new TLV.
I understand, but left doesn't represent what it is. It's number of or depth of the SRv6 header you can impose. It's not what's left, it's what you are imposing.
Okay, I understood. So I think I need to talk to the ISIS authors, because I just referred to what these guys were doing. So yeah, got it.
Yeah, my question was, is there a new path setup type of this? Or are you, yes, there is, okay. That's okay then.
Yeah, thank you. Adoption, question mark?
I mean, it was a throwaway question, but I don't think there's anything particularly stopping us from doing a poll for this. I think last time we asked, there was plenty of interest. I threw some comments at you last time. I think they've all been addressed now in terms of aligning with the base segment routing. So yeah, I don't think there's anything to stop that. Jeff, you're up next.
Hi everyone, Jeff Tancher. I'll be talking about the binding seat setup in PC networks. So binding seat has been defined in 8402, and it's used as stable anchor local to the node itself. When node looks up binding seat label, it yields an action or another SR path or pretty much anything you can attach to it. It's essentially used in other application, being optical, being reduced depth of label stuff. So they're actually a long time due to adoption. So binding seat could be reported through PSAP from PC to PC. PC could request PC to allocate a specific binding seat, so it could work both direction. And it defines LSP object. Very straightforward TLV, I would say. It's a type and value. So far, we have defined two values. One of them is MPLS label or label stack empty. In one case, it's 20 bit. In another case, 32 bit. So again, it's been around for quite some time, unfortunately got stuck. The number of implementations been used in many other solutions that rely on it. So we would like to request working group adoption, and there's a number of things we have some ideas about we would like to consult working group. So today it's generic, could be used in both RSVP and SR case. There's no really use case for RSVP. So the question to group, do you think we should just say it's SR only, be done? A TLV format, I think everybody is happy with it. Again, many people used it in other solutions. So if you have any comments, I'd be happy. There are some questions about using indexed value. Again, I'm not familiar with any implementation that would do binding seed as non-absolute value. However, if you have any, please let us know. And I think we have already agreed to move PCACC section to PCACC draft rather than keeping it here. Questions?
I mean, just on this previous slide, I think we probably don't ask this sort of question enough, but it would be really good to get feedback on things like, is there a use case for feature X in this draft before we just go ahead and blindly assume there is and publish it. It's really good to be able to simplify the drafts as much as possible, just from speaking as an implementer rather than as chair. It's the guy who has to write the code as well. So yeah, I think it would be nice if we can get feedback that there is a use case. Probably the right thing, Jeff or Drew, if you're driving this, is to put the question to the mailing list and try and flush out an answer that way. And if no one answers, then I think we can just assume we can simplify. Yeah, as Jeff says, this has been around for quite a long time, and it's been quiet and has now come back. It's ideal for working group adoption. I'm a co-author on this, so I can't do the adoption poll. That would be for Julianne to do. But I'm sort of interested to just see a show of hands for the numbers, just to record in the minutes. Please could you raise your hand if you have read this draft, either like recently or in the distant past when it was first put forward? Great. All right, so it's like about 8 people there. And please could you raise your hand again if you think that this is suitable to be adopted? All right, so it's about 6 or 7. So yeah, it's good. I think the thing probably is it's been around for so long, but maybe people haven't looked at it recently. So it would be good to get.
Put that work to start. Working group adoption in parallel will resend to working group mailing, please, questions, and we will address them if they arise. I presume that it's been discussed for so long.
Yeah, right. Okay, and then we'll hand over to Julian to ask if he'll do the poll. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Young, you're next.
Good afternoon. My name is Young Lee. On behalf of co-authors, I present PCAP extension for Flex Grid networks. I think there are some changes in PC-related work for Flex Grid. RFC 7698 has been published as a framework, and OSPF work has been RFC 8663 and RSPPT as well for Flex Grid networks. And as we have seen in the earlier part of this PCAP session, now PCAP for GMPLS and WSUN also have moved to RFC publication process. To be technically, WSUN is last call, close to last call, but GMPLS, it passed IETF last call. So I think it's time to move the counterpart, which is FlexGrid, which is now a lot of deployment in the optical networks, especially coherent 100 gig and higher. So what is a FlexGrid networks? Maybe this one is a good example. In WSUN, DWDM grid for the FlexGrid allows frequency slots that have a nominal central frequency and the slot width, so that the bandwidth can be flexibly increased, as opposed to WDM channel being fixed, either 10 gig or 2.5 gig or 40 gig or 100 gig. This allows you to create up to 1 terabit and beyond. So this is a very important capability in optical networks. So we basically added one object, SA object, in the existing PSEP work. Spectrum assignment object. Basically, it allows for explicit label control, ERC mode, or not, so that reply can reflect what that means. And SA object basically has frequency slot selection TLB and frequency slot restriction constraint TLB and other optional TLB. And frequency slot selection TLB looks like this. So we have frequency slot assignment FSA method. First fit or random or anything else you can define here. And frequency slot restriction is basically what are the restriction or allowed wavelengths, so to speak, in those in FlexGrid terminology, so that you can associate with the link with what are the M and N value available, so that tunnel can grab those channel. And in PC reply, frequency slot association TLB, it depends on ELC mode or not. So we haven't defined detail on this part. But I think our draft is quite in good shape, in parallel with the WSUN draft. And we need to have some work to be done, but I think we presented this before, and what was holding back was GMPLS and the WSUN draft. Now they're moving down the pipe, so hopefully we can move this faster. Actually, this is more important than actually WSUN, because of the marketplace is now changing.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask for working group adoption this time.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, so I mean, we are now in a position where we can start taking this forward now. The base GMPLS is polished. And yeah, as you say, the marketplace is more for FlexGrid. So if there's interest, so if you've read this draft, or please could you put your hands up? Yeah, that's great. Okay, so maybe 15 people. And please could you raise your hands again if you would like to see this draft adopted by PCE? Yeah, about the same. So that's a good response, Young. I think the next step is to do a poll on the list.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Drew, it says here that you're next. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are some new extensions, 00 documents for P2MP and SRv6. I just wanted to present them together. So we know what PCCC is. We have the TEAS architecture document, well published some time ago. We have the base PCCC, need to change the draft name now because it's adopted. And then we have the PCCC SR also just waiting for adoption pending, basically. And both were presented in IETF 102 as well, where we made the bigger update. That's why we kind of explained what are the big changes that we did, especially with respect to reusing of existing messages rather than defining something new. First, let's talk about P2MP. So before we do P2MP, let's just have a quick recap of what we basically do in the basic PCCC. Your aim is to provision all the nodes. You assign the labels directly from PCE to the nodes. And this we do via something that we call as a CCI, which is a central controller instruction. We have an object type 1, which is for MPLS label. And via that, you can simply push the central controller instruction to all the nodes after the path computation and all the things related to that. So what basically changes in case of P2MP? The only new functionality that you need to worry about is the branch node capability, where and this diagram, if you see at the node N3, you have incoming label B, but you need to replicate and send with label C towards N4 and label D towards N5. So this is the normal branch and replication capability that P2MP requires. So all we need to change is maybe program the branch node with this thing. Pretty straightforward. Good thing that our message, which we had in the base document, already had something called as a CCI list. So using that list, we could have multiple outgoing branch nodes and one incoming nodes. So no need to change too much in the protocol. Just this one extra functionality will take care of our basic P2MP in case of PCCC. So what are the changes in the protocol we had to do? One bit that says that you support P2MP. Reuse the same CCI object, no need to change that. And then it is just some error codes with respect to make sure that there's only one incoming, you can have multiple outgoing, all that stuff, but simple stuff. So very simple extension, just the branch node capability in the existing PCCC takes care of our multicast use case. Rest of the functionality, like all the other use cases that you have, like how do you take care of everything else, like synchronization, request, initiate, nothing changes, all remains the same. This is one new functionality that you need to take care for P2MP. Rest of the things, whether it is a P2P LSP or P2MP LSP, doesn't change. Stateful PCE and PCCC takes care of all of that. So this is about P2MP. Now, what we did for SR in case of MPLS was use of PCCC to allocate and assign the SID, which could be an index or it could be an MPLS label directly from the PCE to the nodes, and use that to inform all the nodes about the node SID or the adjacency SID in the network. So the extension here was that we had a new type for CCI, a new object type, which was used for MPLS SR. And then you could use that to do node prefix adjacency, all that stuff. So what changed in case of PCCC SRv6 is just that instead of that SID being an MPLS label or index, it could now be an SRv6 segment. And all the rest of the things are fine. So, but in this case, we needed a new CCI object because as you can see, the SRv6 is a little different, and make sure that our capability are able to handle them and how it links to the draft that I presented earlier, which was the basic SRv6, where you're not using the PCCC, you're only talking to the ingress, but here you are also talking to all the nodes in the network using the PCCC capability. So what is another new thing that we need to worry, that once we get this instruction, what is the job that the node needs to do, which is described in the last two bullets, which is on receiving SRv6 node or prefix SID, we need to update the my local SID table, which is described in the SRv6 document, and also do some local next hop computation, etc. All what is as per the SRv6 document. PCEP just need to refer those, and same whole goods for the adjacency as well. So how does the CCI object look? This is a new object type. The first two things are very similar to what we had for normal SR. You have an ID, you have an empty ID, algorithm, flags, all that thing is exactly the same. The new thing is the functions, which is the SRv6 endpoint functions added there, mapping to SRv6 SRv6 network programming draft. Then you have the 128-bit SRv6 segment and some optional TLV. So the question that I had, which I was thinking also valid here, which is we have locator and function together as one SID, but in ISIS document and other document, they also allow locator as a separate TLV and function as a separate TLV. I'm not particularly sure that it might work for ISIS where you're flooding all the information, but here, is it better to just keep everything together and program together? My personal opinion is I like this, but I really want the feedback from others if they feel that something needs to change with respect to the CCI object encoding. So this is again just a new object type. Rest all the procedure are exactly as the PCCC SR. We don't have to do much change here. So most important, are these features useful? Would we use PCCC to do P2MP and SRv6? Well, we think so. And we also have those in the TEAS use case document, explain why we are doing this. And then, do we like the way the extensions are written? Do you have any other suggestion? Please feedback. And let's do this. This is just 0.0 version. So lots of, if there is any change needed, we'll be waiting for your feedback. Thank you.
Questions for Dhruv? I had one, Dhruv, but it has nothing to do with anything like that you were talking about. So, but let me see if I can find it. There we go. All right. Yeah. Basic PCCC mode. It says that PCCC will take responsibility for managing some part of the MPLS label space for each of the routers that it controls. Is that like, so what's been proposed there, is that, because I didn't see anything like that in the base PCCC draft.
Yes. So the base PCCC document assumed that this is done out of band, that via some configuration you can do it. But at the same time, if you remember last IETF, Cheng Li presented something called as a PC control space. So using open messages, they could exchange that this is the kind of label space that I would like my PC to control. So there is an in-band solution as well, which is in a separate document. But this document assumes that that has been done, the PC is aware of it, and next, what is the set of procedures? Okay. So it doesn't mandate that you should do this via PC itself, via configuration, via Yang models, via whichever way. If you want to set these parameters, it's also fine.
I got it. So is that effectively the PCCC is delegating part of the sRGB to the controller?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right. And that's so that the controller can a priori choose a label?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Got it. Thanks. Very well. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dhruv. Our last speaker is Quan Jiong.
Okay. I'm Chuan Xiong from CTE. My presentation today is the PC multi-layer LSP association. Let us look at the association-related drafts. The first one is the base code, a generic code association, and it's in the waiting up for the write-up. And there are 4 working group drafts, like the diversity policy, bidirectional, protection. And there are many individual drafts, such like the SR policies, client paths, virtual network, segment routing, bidirection, and resource sharing, make before break. And the last one is the multi-layer association in this document. Multi-layer association draft, the zero version provided in March 2017, and I have updated this to the second version. And this multi-layer LSP, including the upper layer LSP and related lower layer LSP, and they can be associated to a group to improve the service provisioning. Under the PSAP extensions to the association object, including the multi-layer association type, and is to be assigned. And the multi-layer association group, it is MLAG for short. And the multi-layer association TLV is including H bit and L bit. The H bit is set indicates that it is the upper layer SP, and the L bit is set indicates that it is a lower layer SP. And there may be many more than one lower layer SP, but only one upper layer SP. And this version updates since the zero version, and there are two updates. The first one is we updated the operator configured and the association type list TLV as the generic association draft, and we add a use case for the inter-domain stitching, and we will make detailed discussion as the following. There are three use cases provided to perform the multi-layer association LSP. And the first one is the band-wide adjustment. Like the figure show, the lower layer LSP1 and lower layer LSP2, either they are viewed as the forwarding adjacency LSP, the FA LSP, as the upper layer LSP, and if we want to update enlarge adjust the bandwidth of the upper layer LSP, we need to first to enlarge the lower layer LSP, then enlarge the upper layer LSP. There will be two messages sent from the PC, but if we use the association group, we just only send the message to enlarge the upper layer LSP, and the PCC1 will search the related lower LSP and enlarge the related lower LSP first, and then enlarge the upper one. So this is the first use case. As the BOD scenario, we will use the same the multi-layer association LSP. And the use case two is the T-links optimization. This is the same feature, but if the lower layer LSP has a failure, if the LSP1 fails, it leads to inform the upper layer LSP, because the lower layer LSP viewed as the T-links of the upper layer LSP. So if the lower layer LSP fails, it leads to inform the upper layer LSP and to perform the T-link optimization. So let's see the use case three. It's the inter-domain stitching. There are several domains, and each domain contains a single PCE to which be responsible for the for its own domain. and each domain has set up a LSP, and the lower layer LSP and the upper layer LSP, we viewed them as a lasting LSP. And the lower layer LSP is viewed as a far LSP for the upper layer LSP. So if in overlay or multi-domain scenario, the lower layer LSP in each domain may be initiated by respective domain species and stitched together to an association group with the end-to-end LSP, as the figure show is the LSP4. So they can stitch the as a multi-layer association group in inter-domain stitching scenario. These are the three use cases to perform the multi-layer association. I'm done. And that's the steps. Contributions and the co-authors are welcome, and we request the working group adoption. So, any comments?
Hi, this is Dhruv. My suggestion would be that if you look at the use cases, we have RFC 5623, which was the interlayer framework in the PCE from some time ago, where we had the various ways the PCEs work with each other to do interlayer path computation. And if you use those as the reference to define your use cases, things would be much, much clearer. Right now, I can imagine where this could be used, but when I see the use cases, it gets lost a little bit. For instance, let's take this case where each PCE is aware of only one of the layers. So even if association exists, the other LSPs are not there in its database. So how can we associate? So there is a use case if we put, say, the parent PCE involvement, or if we say where is the higher layer PCE which has the information about both the layers, then the association object would be very, very useful. So I would just suggest that with respect to use cases, referring to existing framework and building on top of that would be very, very useful, rather than coming with the new topology and a new diagram where things are not as clear. Just a suggestion for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense to me in the context of thinking about LSPs that are associated inside the PCE. When I think about it from the PCC's point of view, it obviously knows that LSPA runs over FA LSPB because it has to encapsulate packets and send them down FA LSPB. So if you tell it to increase the bandwidth on LSPA, it already knows that it's running over LSPB because that's how it's been programmed. It doesn't seem to me like you need an extra association to do that because they're already explicitly associated in the data plane. But to the PCE, that does make a difference. Like, because it has the LSPs in its database, it needs to track some kind of association. If the PCC is reporting that information up to the PCE, then it's a matter of telling the PCE, hey, this LSP is using that LSP as the FA adjacency. And then it makes more sense. So I think I would have had less confusion when I read this. I think if you had presented the use cases from the PCE point of view, rather than the PCC point of view, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the use cases are wrong. I'm just saying I think that the use cases exist in the server rather than at the client.
Your meaning is the use case 1 and 2 is the PCE has the information over the...
The PCE needs the information about the association. The PCC already has it because it already is doing the forwarding.
But in use case 3, it makes sense?
In use case 3, I haven't quite understood yet. I think I probably need to check that more. But as Drew says, each PCE only sees one of the LSPs here. So I'm not sure I've quite understood how that works. Maybe I need to think about that some more.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just find out who has read the draft? Okay, that's four hands. Oh, so yeah, five. Oh, whoa, you keep changing. I think maybe 7 unique hands went up. Some of them went up twice. Okay. So I think that's a wrap. Thank you everyone for your support, and yeah. You're too kind. I'll see you again soon, I'm sure.